On today's episode of the Bubs T Bag Show, the guys talk mortgages with a couple of seasoned professionals.
They're called Equity Source Mortgage. They're based out of Elk River. These guys are the real deal in terms of having actual jobs.
Bubs asks himself, do I feel lucky?
Political correctness wasn't a thing really then either. It was in the colleges and people, loosely talked about things, but you could still say whatever the fuck you wanted.
T-Bag channels the ghost of Burt Reynolds.
I'm fucking Burt Reynolds. Don't bring this shit to me.
All this and a live weather report from O.J. Simpson coming up.
Good morning, Bubs.
See, I was born ready. You asked me earlier if I was ready.
You're looking beautiful.
Well, I'm a beautiful person.
In your USC football jersey I see today. Is that in honor of the juice?
I hope he's enjoying hell.
I think right now he's scouring. He's scouring all the golf courses there, looking for the murderer.
Down in
the
which ring of hell is he in?
The depths of Hades.
Yeah.
The one where you, I guess, murder two innocent people and then trick fucking entire country into believing that you were victim of racist policeman.
Yeah, isn't that just it?
Boy,
look back at that. It was 30 years ago.
It started a real. That was a bit of a snowball rolling down the hill, wasn't it?
Well, that was 30 years ago, 1994. It probably happened in May, June.
The actual murder.
Yeah, and then in '95 was his trial that he was acquitted because his glove didn't fit.
If the glove does not fit, you must acquit.
Yeah.
Everyone involved in that was just it's such a, if you watch it back then, if you were to watch it now, it has all the earmarks of just racial grifting. You know what I mean? Johnny Cochran.
Well, they had a dream
he had
team.
ties.
Buckley and
yeah,
all those guys.
I mean,
what was the guy from Massachusetts that was
Effley Bailey?
Bailey, that's the guy, yeah. Bailey, and you had Shapiro, and then you had... right away, he had Kardashian, the dad.
Barry Scheck, he was another one.
Yeah, Barry Scheck. Yeah.
What a name for a lawyer.
How about these names? Cato Kalin.
Yeah, he was kind of cool.
Just live there, man.
Right, but listening to him talk was kind of interesting. It was just this hang around guy.
But all the blood everywhere, and they couldn't do it because some cop said the N-word.
In 1981 or something like that?
Well, for a fictional book, he was describing things.
Right.
And then they had the recording and they busted that out.
Right.
Mark Furman.
And he makes a living,
Yeah.
He's still like a talking head kind of a thing.
Well,
he's well spoken. I'm sure he was a good cop.
Solved that Kennedy deal where that Kennedy cousin or whatever killed that girl.
It's amazing to me that it was that long ago. You know what I mean? I know we talked about it one time on one of the shows where... Yeah, I remember I was seeing a movie with my dad when the Bronco chase thing was happening.
Yeah.
And then I was in high school when the verdict was read.
Well, I was 25 years old.
Yeah.
So that's a different perspective.
Yeah, you're a grown man at that point.
I was a man. I was all grown.
That was the first time I do remember seeing, though, when the verdict was read, looking around and going, what the fuck is going on? Because half the school erupted in cheers.
Yeah.
Probably not half the school, but a quarter of it.
But OJ, may he rest in hell. Oh, fuck him.
Rest in piss, you won't be missed.
Yeah, maybe, some version of Hellraiser is down there and just tormenting
Yeah,
him.
And this is kind of old news by now, but we heard it briefly before we started recording the show, so...
We had to mention it. It's
we had to timestamp it, I guess, capsule it.
I think if you're over the age of 40, OJ's woven into your fabric.
It's definitely a part like that. It seemed like that was 2 years, of national news cycle was much different then.
Those 3 or 4 networks.
You consumed what they told you,
yep.
And you believed it. And for the most part, I think the news media was a little more responsible then with how they...
Well...
A little more. Now, there are people that are journalists that are, activists.
Yeah.
There wasn't as much of that then.
No, it was a profession then.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, that's how you consumed, you gave what they handed you. And it seemed to me, Bubs, I feel like it was 2 years where when you turned on the TV, whether it was the news
Yep.
Or let's not forget, remember the late night stuff.
Oh,
Because back then, late night, the talk shows were popular. It was Leno, Letterman. Conan might have been in the very, very early stages.
yeah, he was.
Yeah, I think he started in 93 or 94. But those guys, they got blood out of that stone for, 3 or 4 years of just nonstop OJ jokes.
Oh, yeah.
The greatest, my favorite was when Norm Macdonald would do Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, he was ruthless.
Yeah, he was the best. But yeah, screw O.J. Simpson, you asshole.
But he could run the ball. USC, Bills.
It was before my time, but I believe you.
Yeah, he could run the
Sounded
ball.
like he had every record there was, in college. and stuff
Heisman
like
Trophy.
that. Somebody bought that thing.
Think of the guy here. I was thinking. I heard it on the radio driving over to your crib here. Think of the people that after that would go golf with him. They'd show him out on a golf course, and there'd be a foursome.
Yeah,
and there's 3 other schlep rocks hanging out with OJ.
I wonder who those guys are really. Are they just sort of the
Did
real?
they win a silent auction?
But the hangers on of the hangers on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then the people hanging out with him in Vegas, and just
Right.
they got to be just moral scumbags.
Leeches.
Yeah.
Yeah, just absolute leeches.
Yeah. Do you remember his jersey number?
Was it 26?
32.
32.
I
was
believe
going
it
to
was
say
32.
34 too. I don't remember it. I know very little about him as a football player. The biggest thing I remember about him, besides the murder trial, was that he was in the Naked Gun movies.
Yeah, and then he did commercials. He was in movies like in the early 80s, late 70s maybe.
Airport, wasn't he in
Airport,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some other
Hertz Rent-A-Car.
Yeah, he could leap everything that could run. But then he was a sideline commentator.
Yeah.
For football.
Yeah, he was on he did football.
He was Pam Oliver.
Was he?
Before Pam Oliver.
On CBS or ABC or something?
Yeah. He was just a guy that was around.
A guy that occupied...
He made the transition.
He occupied so many parts of pop culture for the last 30 years.
Well, yeah. But
And he never found that fucking murderer either, did he?
Well, maybe the murderer died before him. You'll find him in hell.
You ever read the case stuff like a little bit? I mean, obviously, what's available publicly is what I mean.
No. I lived through enough of that to,
Yeah.
fuck it. There was a travesty of justice on a monumental scale, and you could almost argue at that point is when things really started to shift.
I think so. Yeah.
For the way culture and
the way the legal system sort of,
political correctness wasn't a thing really then either. It was in the colleges, and people, loosely talked about things, but you could still say whatever the fuck you wanted.
Yep.
But after that, it seemed like the air out of the dream of America kind of slowly started to escape to where we are now.
That was a great soliloquy, Bubs.
I try to paint a picture.
I think it was beautiful, and I also, all kidding aside, 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah.
It does seem like things kind of went downhill. Looking back, the OJ thing, 1994-ish, I think things started kind of going, a little bit south at that point. And a lot of the, activist types or people who make it their life's work to sort of keep criminals out of jail, they'll say the absolute different. No, this is just you people finally atoning for, being in charge of all these bullshit.
What was
It's the same time
didn't Lincoln have a quote back before he was president about, it's better to let one guilty man go or let a bunch of guilty men go than convict one innocent man?
Maybe.
Yeah.
You'd have to look it up.
I'm paraphrasing.
It sounds a little bit familiar, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Lincoln.
I think it was Lincoln. I don't know.
It does, it makes sense, but at the same time, I don't think there are that many innocent men that go to fucking prison. There aren't. You know what it takes to get convicted?
Yeah, a plea bargain.
I mean, you have to fuck up so bad to convince all 12 people that you fucked it up.
Well, on that scale, though, of OJ, look at that. You could even look at Chauvin's case. Chauvin had no malice, and look what happened to him. It was already predetermined. In 1994, we were all naive enough to think OJ was going to get convicted.
Yeah.
In 2000, I don't know, what was it, 22? when Chauvin got convicted.
Yeah. Everybody knew.
Everybody knew what was going to happen. It was just theatrics.
At some point, the tide will turn.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of very angry people when that does happen. I think the American justice system right now is perverted beyond any sort of immediate repair.
Well, on a large scale type cases, it is. I
mean,
don't know
but-
what it is for, the guy that
Well,
beats his wife or something.
yeah, I don't know about that either. I mean, I'm not really familiar with the art of wife beating or anything like that, but
Well, I can tell you.
yeah. With your gravy-stained white tank top there and black dress socks and boxer shorts coming.
You don't have to cut the sleeves off
Right.
to make it a wife beater.
Right.
That's right. There's a pecking order.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm not at the top of that pecking order. Dads don't get to be at the top of the pecking order.
I believe you.
No, it's true.
I
Man,
believe you.
you're
At my house, I'm at the very top.
well, you're it. You're the pinnacle.
I'm also at the bottom too,
yeah,
though.
yeah, you exist in a duality of
Right.
bachelorhood.
No, when
Of one day you could just be barely getting off the floor, and then the next day you're fucking bebopping around the yard.
let's say this: when something needs to be done, it rests 1,000% on my shoulders. There's no one I can point to and go, "Hey, clean that up.
Yeah, you're kind of like an MMA fighter out in the ring. It's only on you, buddy.
Clean it up."
It's only on you.
Yeah, nobody's gonna fucking clean that
No,
up.
you're in a constant
Me.
state of man against himself.
1,000,000%. It is a fight every single day to the death.
For the last 24 years, I've had outside forces acting upon me.
Yeah.
Yeah, children.
What do you think's harder?
What?
Do you think this life is harder or your life is harder? Like, I mean, not now because you're, but is a man trying to raise 3 children? Is that a chore?
Oh yeah, it's a vocation. in
Is it
which-
more of a chore than being, isolated and
I think for you, for a lot of the bachelor guys that I know, I think it's harder on you guys.
in a weird way, I kind of agree with you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to take anything away
I
from
think the Buzzcocks had a song called Isolation. You may want to
yeah.
listen to it.
I mean, I'm not like isolated, but you know what I
Well,
mean?
I
Like
mean-
you're in a house solo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have the internal voice constantly going,
Yeah, all the time.
and you got to distract it with chemicals and music.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
do a pretty good job of that.
Yeah.
You know.
Where I have, I guess, over the years, over 2 decades of, dad gets hosed, dad's the last one to get the good stuff or whatever, if you're doing it right, I guess. I'm not complaining. But it's a lot of hair loss and worry over the years. You only got to worry about yourself.
Yeah.
I got 4 other people to worry about.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll ever experience that or not. We'll see. The future, remains to be written for
The
me.
Lord blessed me with 3 boys, and it was basically a low-key, soft infantry team
Yeah.
at the team level. And
Yeah.
and that's how I approached it. If I needed something done, you didn't say, hey, leave a note. Can you do this for me? It was grab them by the shoulder, look them in the eye. Hey, go rake the lawn.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I just said to you?
Would they do it?
Yeah, in some half-assed way, but they would.
Would
If you did not grab them by the shoulder,
and like show them or what?
well, look at them in the eye and say, I need you to rake the front yard today. And they would look at you, and then I would say, tell me what I just told you. And they would say, rake the yard. Exactly. So go do that. Are there any questions? And they would go, no. And then an hour later, it still hasn't been done. And then I would go back out, grab them by the shoulder again, rake the fucking yard.
Then would it get done?
Then it would get done.
Would it be just like they did it with one arm type thing?
No, they would do it. But it was, it's boys.
Yeah.
They're just fucking off or whatever. But
Right.
I had to treat them like I was probably in some infantry unit talking to some private
Yeah.
and
Well,
say,
that's,
and then reaffirm
that's good
it.
though.
Yeah.
So you were like the great Santini or whatever that guy was,
That's
right?
a good movie, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't
God,
that
that
Robert-
movie makes me sad because I know what that's like.
Having like a DI for a dad, you mean, or what?
No, just being that dad.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah, gotcha.
And I've watched that movie a couple times. I should read the book, and there's a sequel to it. But you catch yourself really going down a dark path of control.
I saw it one time in school when I was like in like middle school or something.
I'm the Great Santini. He's bouncing that basketball off his head. Well, the kid's
It's Robert
going up the
Duvall,
stair.
right?
Yeah. God, is that a great character? I'm the Great Santini, the Great Santini.
I haven't seen it.
I think the book.
I don't.
I'd like to read the book because the son wrote the book.
You should and give us a report.
Yeah, I'm reading Moby Dick right now.
Call me Ishmael.
That's where it starts.
Call me T Bag.
Queequeg.
Ahoy. Queequeg? Is that
Queequeg
the
is
other guy?
Well, he's the cannibal savage. I read the book, I don't know, 8th grade, 7th grade or something, and, half-ass skimmed through it. But the references in it, and the historical references, and the literal references, and the words used in it, I have to have my phone next to me and look them up.
Yeah, the English is a bit different.
Well, it's that, or it's how it's used.
Sure.
And then I have to put it in. So I'll read it, and I think, okay, what does that mean? What is the reference? What is this Greek reference they're using? Why are they using it? And then I look it up, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got it.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
I would have consumed it in a manner very similar to yours.
Yeah.
Was probably, I think it was 8th grade, definitely middle school, but I remember reading it / not reading it.
Yeah. I've gone back and
the words
revisited
were
classics.
Yeah, it was.
I read of Mice and Men when, 9th grade or something.
And now you get something out of it?
Yeah, I've read it a couple times since, probably in the last decade. Animal Farm is one I always go back to because it's so timely. And then
that's what I heard. Right now?
It was timely 20 years ago.
It's like real life, I heard now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yep.
Same with like 1984.
1984 is another good one. It's kind of a slower one. Animal Farm's a little quicker to the point.
I brought this up to Bubs yesterday before the show. I happened to be watching some stuff on TV the other day. I don't really have any channels anymore or satellite or anything like that. I just kind of pick and choose. But for some reason, Dirty Harry popped into the feed or whatever on Amazon.
That's who OJ should have met.
Yeah. And I happened to be talking to my dad right around that same time. And my dad was a big fan of the movie. He's the one who showed me the movie for my first time when I was probably, I would guess, 12 or 13.
It's about the right time to watch it.
Yeah. He brought out
your balls drop.
He brought out the VHS.
You got anger you don't even know about.
I remember he brought out the VHS and
you got to watch this.
Pops it in. And the first thing I remember when the movie started, I was just watching it by myself. He was at work or something and left me a couple of videos for the day. But I remember the first scene where he's on the rooftop with the rifle, and it just has the coolest music. It's this very like kind of jazz flute type music that you wouldn't think would be in like a.
Well, you think it was
like a thriller.
You know what other movies had that? It was like Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
It was just the times.
Yeah. But boy, I missed, watching that. The music in Dirty Harry it really sets this mood for kind of this 1970s, early 70s sort of vibe. And the one thing I talked to my dad on the phone about it for a while, man, the 70s, that must have been pretty cool. Just the cars, everybody seemed to kind of be enjoying themselves. A far cry kind of what a modern city seems like today, I guess. I don't know. This is a movie, so it's make-believe, but Dirty Harry to me paints a great picture of what I think maybe the 1970s were like, or the early 70s, and especially I think the compare and contrast for the San Francisco of 1971 or 72 to the San Francisco of 2024 is terrifying. I think if you would have shown anyone who lived in San Francisco back then what it would look like 50 years later, I don't think they would have believed you. I've never been to San Francisco, so I can't give my complete 2 cents on it. But I do know this. I have a couple of friends who have lived there. I haven't talked to them for a couple of years. One still lives there. There's a phone app that a lot of people use that helps you avoid walking through large areas of human shit on public streets. That's what it's become. Mainly because the people that run the city at some point thought it was a good idea to allow open air drug use all over the place. That's what happened to San Francisco.
Well, that's part of a larger Marxist issue in which they're destroying the fabric of America.
Right. It became a place for drug tourism.
What you had with Dirty Harry is an iconic hero figure that fights against that liberal establishment or that liberal politics that was prevalent in San Francisco. And at the time, that state was Republican. That was a Republican state.
They put people in the gas chamber.
Yeah.
Pretty frequently, too,
Sure.
from what I remember.
They probably deserved it.
There's a scene in Dirty Harry where a prosecutor is talking to Clint Eastwood after he arrested the villain in the movie Scorpio, who's played by a guy named Andrew Robinson, who played the villain so well that I think he was basically typecast for the rest of his career. What do you need, a garbage can?
I was looking for the stool.
What stool? Oh, shit.
Shit.
Hang on a second.
No, keep talking. One is being a stool that needs to be here underneath me. Okay,
all right,
talk about Robbins.
All right, we got Bub's stool back, thank God. And he wants to keep that segment in for some reason, so we'll do it. And we'll see how big of a hit that little segment is. But,
well, I have riders.
Yeah, you need...
I need coffee provided for me. I need my sitting
a stool,
utensil.
So a McDonald's breakfast sandwich.
Well, cannibalized one, and a fucking coffee.
Yep, you got it. Are we good now?
Well, so far, a few of the check marks on my rider, my contract.
So far, so good.
So good. Get back to your...
Only a bowl of green M&Ms, kind of like Van Halen backstage,
I like blue. All right, let's go back to Andrew Robbins or Tony Robbins.
So Andrew Robinson played the villain. And the scene that Dirty Harry's captured Scorpio, the killer, and he's going to try him. He wants him arrested and, charged with the murder of this young girl, amongst others. He's killed some people recently in San Francisco. He's killed a couple of women. He's killed a child, all kinds of stuff. A prosecutor won't allow it to happen because he's found some sort of little technicality in Harry's police report that prevents him, he says, from charging him. I understand this is how kind of the justice system was designed on paper. However, when you have a country that has people in it with absolutely no regard for the words on that piece of paper or the piece of paper itself or the person who put the words on the piece of paper, it really doesn't matter. And Bubs, that's why we're in the shit situation that we're in now. It's because of activists and ballless prosecutors and judges. And my solution is this. Remember a couple shows ago, I told you we need to make a list?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if you're on board with it. I certainly am. That list should be comprised mostly, at first, of activist judges and activist prosecutors. Those people go home. They sleep somewhere. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
They don't exist just on the internet.
Getting back to Dirty Harry, I own a Model 29 Smith & Wesson. I think it's 8 3/8 inch barrel.
That's a pig iron.
That is. My father-in-law had it, and unfortunately when he passed away, but I ended up with this.
Now, is that a 44 Magnum?
The most powerful handgun in the world.
Blow your head
clean off.
Yeah. You got to ask yourself, do I feel lucky?
I gots to know.
That guy is actually in a sequel with Dirty Harry a couple movies later.
Well, he's in a few Clint Eastwood movies because Clint Eastwood liked, he had a troupe of actors that he liked to put in movies that he probably worked well with.
Rumor has it that's Dirty Harry is basically where Eastwood, he kind of directed little parts of it. The director was a guy named Don Siegel, who I guess was pretty good, tight with Clint Eastwood and taught him a lot of things about filmmaking. But from what I understand, he kind of, like Eastwood himself, sort of took the reins on a few of the scenes type thing. And
sure.
Man, there's some scenes in Dirty Harry that are just, there's probably 4 or 5 scenes in that movie that are kind of unforgettable. The first, the rooftop scene with the music in the beginning. And then...
what year were you 12 years old?
This would have been probably like 93.
All right. So in about 1980...
92?
I watched Dirty Harry.
Yeah?
And that is a pivotal movie for me.
Do you remember where you saw it?
VHS.
You VHS in 1980, huh?
81, whatever it was. We had it. I can name the 4 movies we watched.
You silver spoon mother effer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was right after we got rid of our black and white TV.
Yeah?
Yeah. We had a phonograph stereo system with an 8-track in it.
Oh, like part of the same unit? Like it was a record player as well as an 8-track?
Yep.
That's pretty cool. Man, it's too bad you still don't have those. Those are worth
that could be in my parents' attic for all I know. But Dirty Harry is a very, I mean, politicians would quote him. They would, you know, there was a TV show called Hunter, Fred Dreyer, right? He was a defensive end for the Rams, and then he became an actor, and then his character in Hunter was based off Dirty Harry.
There's another TV show that kind of did it as well. Much more of a spoof, but it was only on for, I think, 2 seasons. But it was funny.
Yeah, what was it?
Sledgehammer.
Yes.
Remember Sledgehammer?
Yeah. I don't remember the details, but I can remember the actor.
I have it on DVD somewhere, or at least I think I do. One of my neighbors ended up walking off with about $700 worth of old DVDs before he conveniently moved out of town here, and
Where does he live?
Don't know.
Oh.
But
sure
haven't forgotten it, and should I run into him again?
Karma.
I'd like to ask him about those DVDs.
The Magnum Force, was that the sequel?
Magnum Force, I think, was the next one.
That was an interesting one with a bunch of corrupt cops.
Yep. I think that was the sequel. And then there was Sudden Impact.
Yep.
And one of my favorites, I think, is underrated, the last one, the Deadpool.
Was that the one that was Sandra Locke was in it?
No. There might be one other one that we're forget. You know what I mean? I think
there's one in there where it's like 84 probably.
All right. So Dirty Harry comes out basically in Christmas of 71.
Yep. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Magnum Force, 1973.
Yep.
Now that was the one
with the
that
corrupt
had
cops.
the motorcycle cops that were like out doing vigilante stuff. Pretty good movie. Then you have The Enforcer.
Yes, The
in
Enforcer.
76.
Yep.
And that's the one that had Tyne Daly in it, I remember.
Yeah, the female partner.
Okay, Sudden Impact, 83.
That's the
one with Sandra Locke.
Yep.
Or Sandra Locke. And that one I've probably only seen once. I should really see that one again.
I don't think that one's very good.
Okay. Now the final one is my favorite. Next to the original Dirty Harry. This one came out in 88. It's called The Deadpool. And it's got some interesting kind of little pieces of trivia in it now, at least for me.
I saw Deadpool, but I have no recollection of it.
It's a little campy in some spots, but it has Liam Neeson in an early role. Another person who's in it that's got a very small part is Jim Carrey.
Really?
So Jim Carrey plays a rock star who ends up dying, and they show him at the like a shoot for a music video that they're shooting somewhere in San Francisco. And the song that they're doing is actually Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses.
Okay.
So this came out before Guns N' Roses was super huge, but they were starting to get pretty popular. And Guns N' Roses, the actual band, is in the movie.
Oh.
Towards the end of it, they show them like kind of standing around at the music video shoot. It's well worth a watch, in my opinion, the Deadpool. Like I said, there's some cheesy moments, but Clint holds the movie together. If you haven't seen any of the Dirty Harry movies, I recommend watching them. Start with the first one and be prepared to enjoy rooting for a guy whose only mission in life is to basically crush crime wherever it happens.
Well, he was the line in the sand.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll remake Dirty Harry coming up in the few years.
They'll fuck it up.
But it's going to be
Dirty Harriet.
Yeah, Dirty Harry's going to be a woman cop. She'll probably be a fat black lady or something like that, going against whoever, you know. And
Queen Latifah.
I could totally see it.
Well, she's the equalizer now.
Yeah, I could totally see it.
It's part of the reprogramming of America.
Right. But I'll say this, all the Dirty Harry movies, if you go back, every bad guy in that thing was black.
No,
you know,
the Psycho was white, and then I think...
Well, right, but I mean, like, the scenes where they show Harry getting into, interrupting crimes.
While he's eating a hot dog?
Right. Or there's a good one in Double Impact, or it might be Sudden Impact. I'm sorry, not Double Impact.
That's JCVD, brother.
Dear Lord.
God,
He popped into my head, didn't he?
Yeah.
There's a scene, I think, in Sudden Impact where Harry goes to a coffee shop to get his cup of coffee, and it's being robbed, but he doesn't know it because the guys say, hey, hold on a second, a cop's coming in, everybody shut up. and the lady behind the counter fills his coffee cup filled with sugar. And he's on his way out the door reading the paper, not really paying attention. He takes a sip and realizes, oh shit, it's nothing but sugar. That was a signal that they had, already set up sometime before, because he's a regular customer there. He goes back in there and
shoots everybody.
Yeah, and I mean the guys who are holding up the place couldn't be any more stereotypical, like, what's up, sucker? Like that type of stuff. Yeah. So if they do remake Dirty Harry and they do it in the style that is currently in vogue in pop culture, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they are getting their just desserts on skinheads or something like that.
Yeah.
We have it coming.
Mm-hmm. What about the movie The Gauntlet?
What's that?
What? That's a Clint Eastwood movie from probably 76, 77.
Is that with Jeff Bridges?
No, that is George Kennedy, Jeff Bridges, Clint Eastwood.
Isn't there a monkey in it or something too? Or
there's a couple of the
like a pet monkey. I mean,
no, that's Any Which Way But Loose.
Okay.
Yeah, the Jeff Bridges one is Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. That's a good movie.
That's the Jeff Bridges
one. And that has a couple plot twists or some characters that cease to exist in the movie that you'd be surprised at. But The Gauntlet is Sandra Locke, Clint Eastwood, and he's got to get a witness to something, or pick up a witness or whatever it is, and it's Sandra Locke.
Oh.
And it's over the top.
I bet.
A lot of shooting. And
no kidding.
He armors up a bus. And
yeah?
And he's got to run the gauntlet.
No shit.
Yeah.
I got to watch that. That sounds interesting.
Iger Sanction?
Never. No, I'm not familiar.
Okay, Iger Sanction is Clint Eastwood. I think George Kennedy might be in this one as well. And he's I can't remember if he's like a spy or something, but he's a rock climber. And so then there's a like K2 or something, and there's some interesting kind of effeminate homos in Europe in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's stereotypical kind
of?
of?
Well, there's kind of a handler and then there's a man with them, but it's
sure.
It's not over the top, but it's subtle, but you catch it.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Clint Eastwood's got a volume of work in the 70s. I mean, he was the guy, him and Burt Reynolds.
80s too.
Yeah.
I mean, probably like right up until the kind of late 80s.
Well, even like Gran Torino, Unforgiven. I mean, there's some movies that he's done that are phenomenal.
Eastwood
Josie
continued,
Wales.
Yeah, like he kind of transitioned a little more into like director actor, but the other guy you mentioned, Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, he became a cartoon.
He kind of just turned into some crotchety.
Yeah, guy could throw a football. He was a quarterback.
I believe it.
He was a Gator.
Was he?
Or a Seminole. I think he was a Seminole.
Okay.
Yeah, he's from like Jupiter, Florida or something.
I know this much. Towards the end of his career, the last 10 or 15 years, he was in one of my favorite movies ever called Boogie Nights.
Yeah, he did a good role in that one.
He did.
Yeah.
He was nominated for an Oscar and the whole deal. And
you look at Deliverance, you look at Gator. I mean, there's a lot of movies that he did where he's a good actor. It's like Sly Stallone.
He is. He's great in Boogie Nights, too. The thing is, though, is that I don't think the guy... This is what kind of makes me think maybe his head was a little too big, or he might have been his own worst enemy in certain ways, because after the movie was done being shot, there is, I guess, stories from more than one person of basically people saying that Burt Reynolds didn't even want the movie to get fucking released because he thought it was such dog shit, and he hadn't, seen it or anything. The guy who made it was a guy named Paul Thomas Anderson, who I think is about the closest thing you have nowadays to a living version of Stanley Kubrick. And Reynolds couldn't see that he was in a piece of art that, was going to probably stand for 100 years or more. When I hear things like that, it kind of makes me wonder if Burt Reynolds maybe just became too much of I'm fucking Burt Reynolds. Don't bring this shit to me. You know what I mean?
Well, who knows? He was pretty old when that...
Burned a lot of bridges, though.
Yeah, but he didn't care. That guy had...
I'm guessing he didn't.
No, yeah.
But, he could have been a Clint Eastwood.
He was big for 35, 40 years.
Right, but, his last sort of 10, are remembered as just,
what happened to him mentally, though, right?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Could have gotten hit in the head a few times.
Or just, he gets old.
Got old. Too many drugs and alcohols.
Yeah, too much ass.
I bet he got a lot.
Oh.
All kinds.
You have to put
women.
You have to put an exponent on that number.
Women, probably even men somewhere.
Wherever, 70s.
Didn't he dress up in a pair of pantyhose or something on TV? Or no, he was on the magazine cover with like just a pair of underwear on, or maybe not even that.
I don't know.
It was him and Joe Namath that sort of did.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't together, but
yeah, they do.
They were known for these commercials at one point that kind of exposed them, and was probably considered highly unmasculine.
It's part of the ritual.
Guaranteed.
Yep.
Even
Anytime you
back
see
then.
somebody in a dress,
Yeah,
it's ritual.
John's-
Anytime there's humiliation,
that's
it's ritual.
Yep, and they're doing it now big time.
Oh, yeah.
To a lot of celebrities.
Lockstep.
John Cena comes to mind.
What about your fella P. Diddy?
Did he?
Yeah. Sean Puffy Combs to me.
Supposedly, the guy is a real sexual deviant and has $1 billion or whatever he's got. Never really purveyed his music, could care less what he had to say. The last thing I remember him sort of doing.
What was his vodka?
I have no idea.
Is it Ciroc?
Is it? I don't know.
I don't know.
The last thing I remember the guy doing was in 2004.
20
he
years
was
ago.
pushing real hard for this vote or die sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Which, looking back, this is nothing. Look, all these people that, like him, who suddenly go from, music mogul to, oh, you know what, guys, I'm taking a break. Go out there and vote or die.
Well, that's somebody
All that meant
propping
was
him
go
up.
out. Yeah, all that meant was go out and vote Democrat.
But he didn't come up with that on his own. That's
Not
orchestrated.
Of course not. Yeah, this is all the people that ended up
This is part of the propaganda wing.
running Obama.
Do you notice how every election is like, this is the election of elections?
Yeah, I remember that one being like that.
Every election. But you know what? For me
Wasn't
growing
even
up,
close.
no, it wasn't. The Clinton ones weren't, this is the election to end all election.
This one is.
Okay.
I think it really is.
Really?
I've never said that before.
So the Democrats win. They put the puppet in.
If they win this time,
It's
you're
over.
you're not coming back from it without violence.
Probably right. Maybe that's what the whole plan is.
I don't want violence. I mean,
I don't want violence either, but
what am I going to use?
but
These
if-
guys are going to drone strike us. What are you going to do? Point your fucking AR-15 up there?
No, you're going to wear your fucking warming blanket and try to avoid radar.
Man,
Thermal. Your
I don't-
thermal blanket.
I don't want to see it any more than anyone else, but yeah, like Bubs said earlier,
Can you imagine 8 years
it's
from
been
now
going on for 30 or 40 years.
there's a drone strike against the populace?
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean,
And then
probably not
you know
the
what they're
populace,
using?
but
You know what they're using?
certain spots. What?
Illegal immigrants of military age that they conscript into the army or allow them to become citizens. Service creates citizenship, by the way. And
Would you like to know more?
would you like to know more? And then they don't have a problem. If you originate from some Central American country, what do you care if you're killing whitey?
I think these ideas all sound good on paper to them, but there's a component that will resist that it remains yet to be seen.
It worked in the Soviet Union because they would take one cultural group of ethnic people to go slaughter and round up the other one 500 miles away, 1,000 miles away.
I think it'll work. At first in little.
Well, what
dribs
does
and
it take?
drabs.
What does it take? You got some group of, let's just use a red state. We don't even have to name a state, just considered a real red state, which is funny how states are labeled now, red and blue, to me.
Yeah.
And then they decide, well, you know what? This organization where this political headquarters is at, we're going to just fucking erase it like they do in Syria or Iraq.
Sure.
And no longer the central command of that political organization is now, or that political party is gone, right? What are they going to do? How are they going to explain that away? They're going to create some false terrorist group that it's going to compose of white males, right?
Yeah. Well, they're already kind of setting that up.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot of optimism, but I have optimism in the people.
I do too. I mean, all this stuff sounds really scary, and who knows how it could materialize or show its ugly head. But I think there are things that you just said that probably would ring true. I also think that nobody in this country, including me and everyone else who lives here, has no idea how an armed American populace, I don't think anyone knows how that's going to react, including the people that hate people like that and are right now actively plotting to either remove them or segregate them or provoke them or whatever. That's what we're seeing.
I think it'd be
right
more of a provocation, and then you can label everybody, and then start to push them somewhere or diminish their citizenship.
Label 100+ million people as terrorists.
Yeah. Okay. How about 100+ million people that fell in line during COVID? 300 million people that fell in line during COVID. And that was a fucking cold. All the information that came out about that and the CDC and the NHI or NIH or whatever, they verify on their own stuff that they were fucking lying and hiding information.
Sure.
So what can you believe?
Well, step one in sort of trying to turn a country communist without firing any shots is basically getting the populace to question what's real and what's fake.
And all it takes is one generation of kids that have grown up since, 2000.
To realize this is normal.
This is what's normal.
Yeah.
Safety.
That's what we've been kind of reading about these last couple of weeks and speculating about how it would happen. I happen to believe that the people that are putting things like this in place have absolutely no fucking idea what they're doing. They thought at one point by letting all these people in, we'd get some voters. It's blowing up in their faces. The second you have a terrorist attack here, which you will, those people are going to have to run for the hills.
Which people?
The people that put the elites in charge that have put things like the border crisis.
They'll just go back into the shadows again and just sit there and wait. I think they play a long game. Communism and Marxism plays a long game.
Let's say you have another 9/11 that happens within the next year, Bubs.
Ooh.
Some sort of incident where 20 or 30 people who snuck across the border at some point, they had other reasons in mind rather than just becoming a voting citizen. They didn't care about the $5,000 Visa card. They wanted to commit an act of terror against innocent Americans. If something like that were to happen right now, where you have 3 or 4 or 5,000 people killed, I don't know about you, buddy, but I turn at that point to a much different sort of ideological footing than I was on the day before that incident happened.
Sure.
Right now, if you have a 9/11 type incident, everyone in this country who has even half a brain cell will go, okay, we need to arrest we need to arrest this politician, that politician.
That won't happen.
Why won't it happen?
Who's going to arrest them? Who's going to enforce that? Who's going to march upon that congressman or that senator or that governor or that president? So we talked about the Civil War and when the Civil War actually started, the 1861 to 1865.
More or less, yeah, the spring of kind of 1861.
Yeah. Ironically, it was April 12th or April 11th, 1861, when Fort Sumter was attacked by Confederate troops.
Pretty much on the exact anniversary, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's timely. But you talk about a terrorist attack that started that war, that a lot of people argue that was the real start of it. Wasn't Fort Sumter, it was John Brown, the abolitionist.
Okay.
And he went out, and a lot of that is tied to all these compromises, the Missouri Compromise, right? The Kansas-Nebraska Compromise. They were trying in the Senate to compromise. And what it came down to, they always say it's slavery, right? Free the blacks was the reason for the Civil War. Well, it's economics. Based on South was based on free labor.
Yeah.
And they wanted a state, when a new state was created, right? Missouri Compromise, another state that was free had to be created. So if there was going to be a slave state, there was going to be a free state to keep the numbers equal. So they wouldn't lose any power. Abolitionists had a moral argument against slavery, not an economic one. They took it to an extreme. They had a zealot named John Brown. He went out in the late 1850s, went out to Kansas, Nebraska, and basically attacked a group of pro-slave people because that territory was up for debate. Then he goes to Harper's Ferry, right?
Do you remember what he did? I mean, was it him?
He stabbed and killed 6 to 8 pro-slave people in the territory of Kansas, Nebraska area.
Like while they were at home camping or something?
He called them out and said, "We just want to talk to you."
No shit.
And then slaughtered them.
No shit.
Yep. And he was a hero to abolitionists and anti-slavery and vilified by the South. He ends up at Harper's Ferry, I think, Virginia? And he ends up killing 22 people in an attack at I think it was a military arsenal that they took over, him and his group. I think he had 22 people with him and they attacked and took over a federal arsenal in Virginia. You know who beat them back and caught him? And who led a troop?
I don't.
Robert E. Lee led
No shit.
a Marine contingent and retook the arsenal. And then
I bet they didn't treat John Brown very nicely.
he ended up getting convicted and hung.
Drawn and quartered?
No, just hung. But that incident happened in 1859. That was a terrorist attack on a federal property.
2 years, basically, before anything else went down.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean,
Year and a
before
half.
the quote-unquote
But
start.
John Brown just created this anti-slavery. He was the enforcer behind that movement. But think of it in the context of the time. You didn't have internet, you didn't have TV, you didn't have radio. You had telegraph and newspaper and word of mouth.
Yeah.
So newspapers were the ones that could get out and spread the word to the masses. So it depended on what paper. There were anti-slavery papers and there were pro-slavery papers. Newspapers, just like today.
Let me ask you a question. This is going to be your opinion.
Okay.
Have we had an incident yet that's happened in this country that you can think of, that you know of, that's similar to something John Brown did? We haven't had that happen yet, right?
Well, you can't put it as apples and apples and oranges and oranges. I mean, in the context of a division of society in which you saw one portion of society act out in a very violent, fiery way was in 2020.
My question to you is this. How far do you think we are from it right now?
8 years.
That long, huh?
Yeah. I think back in the day,
I think we're 8 months.
I think people were more independent in a way of action. So somebody like John Brown, who was a zealot abolitionist, whether you agree with him or not, I mean, obviously, we all know slaves get shit done. Look at the pyramids.
Yeah.
But it was probably more of an economical thing. The South was just, they were the number one cotton exporter in the whole world. They had Europe in their market.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a lot underlying things, but whether you're pro-slavery or anti-slavery, he was a zealot.
Sure.
And he acted. He acted. Where how many people nowadays, you could have a view, but who acts?
Very few people act at this point, and I think the reason why is because they're under constant surveillance.
I agree. And the fear of losing something.
Yeah.
Your house, your job. Right now, you go protest at an abortion clinic and they don't like it, they're gonna prosecute you.
Yeah.
And if you just do it peacefully outside and say prayers out loud, they'll throw you in jail.
Yeah. I don't think that we're 8 years away from people reacting like that. I think we're 8 months away.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens in November.
There is absolutely no way this country can tolerate 8 years of whatever the fuck has been happening for the last 8 years. Basically.
Well, we tolerated Obama. We had a 4-year break.
Things were...
And then it fell apart with COVID. And then you had Floyd. And then you had January 6th. And now you have a puppet. And if that puppet gets reelected, I guess it could be sooner.
I think all bets are off.
Do you believe that something violent, zealot, terroristic, whatever you want to categorize it, heroes, revolutionaries, however you categorize it, depends on where you're at. One man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. So what do you see?
I think if Donald Trump doesn't win the presidential election by an absolutely resounding margin, with the exception of states like Minnesota, California, and maybe a few others,
DC,
New York, if he doesn't win everything else with a resounding defeat, I believe that you will see something that's much more, I guess, angry and organized than what happened in D.C. at the Capitol on January 6th. I don't know how it actually transpires, but I think you'll see it. And at that point, I think all bets are kind of off. That's never happened in this country. It's never happened in most. It might happen in some weird banana republic somewhere.
What do you mean?
Cheat at a presidential election and keep your opponent out and arrested and things like that.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened here.
Well, they're piling on him, and he's kind of surviving still.
I think what we're going...
But it is show and circus and bread and circus for us.
I think that we're going to see, though, is a reaction very shortly after that, maybe within days, maybe hours, you know.
Well, is it going to be organized or lone nuts?
At first it'll be kind of, you know, loosely organized, and people go out and do stupid shit. And well, not stupid shit. It's actually very probably warranted at that point. But there'll be a reaction from the people in charge. People will get hurt, put in prison, or killed. And then the other side, after dusting themselves off, will come back and do something else.
Yeah. Well, the January 6th incident, they're still rounding people up for that. And they're still putting people on trial for it.
They haven't got to me yet. God damn it.
God damn it. Yeah, that's right. You were on your escape and evasion plan.
Bubs, we talk about this over and over and over, and I'm glad we talk about it. But at the end of the day, you and I really are only just looking at what's happened in the past and trying to guess what's going to happen again in the future.
You can't.
You know?
I mean, you can read tea leaves. You can see.
Yeah.
And this struck me. I was in deep thought the other day, since I have time.
Obviously.
And I thought, Marxism has been infiltrating this country since, I mean, obviously the 60s. Nobody saw it in the 70s and 80s. Few people were alarmists that said, hey, this isn't good.
Yeah.
We know what, we killed commies. We know what the fuck's going on. And then in the 90s, and things were pleasant and things were prosperous, and they still kept going after the colleges and changing the fucking words, and they're changing definitions, and they're going for medicine for everybody, and everybody has a right to every fucking thing, and then it becomes narcissist and whatever, but they're easily controlled. And education, look at the education system in Minnesota. They're claiming they need more money.
No, they need less money and less people.
Yeah, but think
there.
about it. It's a scam. It's a whole fucking deal. But my point is the kids are getting dumber on a whole.
Yeah.
Their test scores are terrible. I graduated, and 78% of the classes back then went to college.
Yeah.
That's pretty high.
You would be a genius right now compared to what a lot of people are that are coming out of schools now.
Yes, but my point is that they're undermining everything: religion, police, all the pillars of society over the last 25, 30 years has been just decimated. Where we're left to be told, don't believe what you see.
Decimated, and no one fired a shot to do it.
No.
Not one shot was
and
fired.
they've used pressure, leverage, cunning. These fucks that get elected and then get appointed and get put into these positions, they're just doing it. Trump gets elected, let's say.
Okay.
They're playing a long game. He's a short-timer, lame duck, 4-year guy. All right. They put up with him for 4 years. They've tried to destroy him. Somehow he gets elected. Great.
If he doesn't go full scorched earth, it's his own fault.
Yes.
You know,
whether the infrastructure doesn't allow it, whatever happens. I mean, he's just one man and he's a president. They're surrounded by a whole fucking minutia, a leviathan of fucking layer upon layer.
You don't think Donald Trump could get on social media and say, I need 10,000 guys to show up at the White House?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm going to deputize you tomorrow.
There'd be 1,000 Harleys there, and there'd be
my God.
And a lot of big trucks.
You know, it would be unorganized at first,
Yeah.
but after a year, I bet it would be running pretty efficiently.
Sure.
I could see something like that happening.
A lot of Skinnerd playing. Anyway, but so what? He gets elected. All right. They'll just sit and wait. They've waited this long. They can wait another 4 years.
Agreed.
Marxism and communism can play a long game. Everybody wants to predict when this American Civil War is going to happen again, and now they're releasing a movie, right? Should we go see it?
So number one, Gary, Mr. Entertainment, texted me about it last night.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually going to see it, I think, tomorrow.
I saw a trailer for it. It looks interesting.
He really, he's psyched to see this thing.
Yeah, Wolverines.
For everyone listening, we're going to have a pretty good show here for you today. We got a couple of people coming, a couple of friends of ours, listeners of the show, Jason and Roy. These guys do mortgages and help people with buying homes. We're going to ask them a few questions about home buying and borrowing and things like that, things to avoid, things to go after, red flags, things like that. These guys are the real deal in terms of having actual jobs. They do mortgages professionally. They help people buy homes. They help people lend money from other large sources. They're called Equity Source Mortgage. They're based out of Elk River. 763-657-2000 and equitysourcemortgage.com. Let's talk to Jason Walters as well as Roy Spear. Welcome, guys. Guys, how long have you been in the mortgage game?
Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely.
Bubs
Welcome.
T Bag.
Yes, sir.
Enjoy the show.
Thanks, Roy.
So we've been in the business about 28 years, I think. Equity Source Mortgage, I founded in 2000.
Okay.
So we've seen a lot.
Yeah. You navigated 2008 okay? I mean, are things getting kind of crazy now again, or what's kind of the temperature right now in the lending sort of industry? Is everybody in a holding pattern, or is it people going balls to the walls like they were 4 years ago during COVID?
So we as a consuming public have enjoyed almost 20 years of lower than average interest rates. And so since COVID and inflation and increased interest rates, the environment is tougher, specifically for first-time homebuyers. Insurance is higher, taxes are higher, and when you take an interest rate from, say, 4 to 7%, these payments are almost doubling.
Right. What are they at right now?
Your 30-year fixed is probably just a hair over 7%.
And 4 years ago, it was more than half, or
less than 4%.
Yeah, right. Do you think it goes up from here?
Okay, so I'll zoom out a second. So we handed out $5 trillion,
yeah,
via COVID.
Sure.
Way too many dollars chasing too few goods. So we gave away $5 trillion, and that created a pile of inflation. Inflation directly impacts interest rates. So we went from the threes to a little over 7%, which extremely erodes the buying power, for individuals looking to buy a home, to sell a home, and move up in a home. And so the environment has been, I like your comment, sort of holding pattern. If people don't have to buy, they're kicking back, holding on to that low interest rate that they had several years ago, waiting for an opportunity for things to get better.
So they can rebuy at comparable interest rate, hopefully an upgrade or something along those lines.
Absolutely.
Understandable. What kind of market trends do you think we're seeing right now lately in Minnesota? I mean, is it pretty much just that? Is it the holding pattern thing for most? I'm not talking about the super rich. I'm talking about your kind of middle class home buyer, maybe first, second home type thing.
So the market's been actually pretty resilient for the number of homes that are for sale. We still face a supply issue. All right, so Joe and Joanne Q Public, who are trying to buy their first home, they're not going to find anything suitable for, say, less than $250,000 in the 13-county metro area.
Sure.
And now you take into consideration the fact that there are way less homes for sale. There's still a lot of people trying to get that first home, even under the pressure of higher interest rates, taxes, real estate taxes, insurance. And so holding pattern is a good term because we still don't have the supply. We're lacking supply. Supply keeps pushing up housing prices, even with higher interest rates. So where do we go from here? Good question. We need lower interest rates to get some more houses on the market, to get some supply on the market, to get more buyers that qualify.
What are some mistakes people often make when buying or selling a home that you could think of, nowadays?
Probably inadequate representation. There's a lot of real estate agents out there. There's a lot of good real estate agents out there, but if you are not represented by somebody who can write a really good purchase agreement and negotiate, and I'm going to use the term negotiate loosely because there isn't much negotiation in this market. And so someone who can return your calls, write a decent purchase agreement, and make sure everything happens on time, that's probably one mistake that takes place. People try and sell their home on their own, thinking that they're going to save all this money, but in reality, they don't always save all this money because they probably didn't list it properly.
Sure. What are some of the biggest potential red flags that you could think of when you would be choosing a realtor? Is there anything to a new home buyer out there? We do have some of our audiences, younger guys in their 20s. So these guys probably haven't bought their first home yet. If you were talking to someone like that who's going to be buying kind of their first home in Minnesota, and they're looking for a realtor and they don't know anyone off the top of their head and they don't have any buddies that can refer them to someone, what is something that they need to look for to, if they see this, hey, maybe try someone else, or, you know, look around and get a second opinion? What are some red flags for realtors? Because there's a lot of them out there these days.
I would say work with a human being that you can meet face to face.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of this online stuff going on, and you're taking away a lot of variables in the interaction necessary to fully complete a transaction if you can't see or talk with this person.
There are realtors out there that they're doing it kind of remote, so to speak. I had no idea that, even like you're just dealing with them through email or something.
Yeah, so you can go on Zillow or some of these other online companies, and sign up for representation, discount representation, whereby you may not ever see the person.
Sure. Okay. Makes sense. I bought a home during COVID, sold a home during COVID as well. A bit of a nightmare. I fully expected it to kind of be that way just because of how things were going on. But I remember personally one time filling some stuff out on Zillow about something, and it turned into the biggest nightmare I'd ever had, with just some Yahoo calling me and nobody really knew what was there. The customer service, in my opinion, was about as close to zero as you could get.
You nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I eventually found one through a friend who was related to a very close friend of mine, who treated me like you just said, a human being who shakes your hand and walks you through every step of the process. So to her, I would say thank you very much. I wouldn't have gotten it done without my buddy Sally and Ryan. But for these younger people too, who are going to be getting into this, what about credit scores? How to protect them? What's a good credit score? As well as how much money do you need to have saved for a down payment? Jason, you want to maybe answer this one a little bit?
All right, I'll take this one. So one of my favorite clients is a first-time home buyer.
Okay.
And the reason is I really like educating them on the process, what it all entails, and what owning a home really means as far as the ins and outs and hidden costs and things like that. But what I'm finding often is that somebody will give me a call and say, hey, I'd like to start shopping for a house. And one of my first questions is, do you have any money saved up for a down payment?
Sure.
Anyone that owns a house right now knows that you have down payment, you have closing costs, you have escrow prepaids. You add all that up, there's a little chunk of change there that you're putting down towards this house. But this younger generation, and I'm not picking on them, but they haven't been educated. They haven't been told these things. And so they'll come to me and say, I don't have any down payment, no savings. I heard there's some kind of a first-time home buyer program out there. We can talk about all that. But the truth of the matter is you're going to have a little skin in the game. You're going to have some money for your down payment, closing costs, and things. Like Roy was talking about earlier, the current market is a seller's market. There's no inventory out there.
Sure.
So when you have no inventory, you're having a lot of people interested in the same house, making multiple offers. So you have to think about the days of seller concessions to cover closing costs. Those are kind of a thing of the past. People they're still offering over asking price just to get these houses. We have a lot of clients that they've been shopping for a house for a year or 2 years. They keep making offers. They keep getting outbid on the house, if you will, and they're not landing these. So the reality starts to set in. Another thing I'd like to touch on is the credit that you referenced.
Sure.
I'm actually thinking about going to do a class for community education or something that talks about credit, because kids aren't being taught about credit, how to establish credit, how to protect your credit, and what late payments do to you. The credit score is huge. That's where you get your interest rate.
Absolutely.
And these kids need to know these things. And I'm not saying just the kids. We all have our credit issues. We've all been up and down. But bottom line is, you got to know about it. I'm not a credit counselor, but I can give a lot of good advice.
Let's say right now, I'll give an example. In 2006, I bought a home, and This was before the subprime crisis in 2008, but not long before it. And I can say I was in my 20s. I had a decent, at the time, middle-class job. But that was about all I had. I didn't have any money saved to bring to the table because I had no idea what I was doing. When you just discussed what you brought up about younger people and not knowing what they're doing, that was me. I think what was different then that is different now is I walked up to a realtor and said, I'd like to buy a house. Here's the job I have. And this guy was salivating. No problem. You don't need a dime. Come on in here. We'll do this 80-20, blah, blah, blah. And I'm guessing those don't exist much anymore, probably?
No.
Not at all, huh?
Well, you can still structure it that way, but a big reason to do the 80-20 was to stay away from PMI.
That's exactly why I did it.
Yep. But private mortgage insurance has come down a lot. So it's not as expensive as it once was. So we don't deal with the 80-20 much.
So that's a thing of the past, huh?
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask, kind of based on my experience, you guys are talking about how inventory is so low. Now, after I bought the place I'm in now, which I would have closed on about 3 years ago, when I was buying it, it was not uncommon. I lost probably on 4 or 5 houses from what I remember. And it was to the point where you were showing up at a house, you had to decide within 20 to 30 minutes as if you wanted to make an offer. Your offer was going to have to be most likely several $1,000s over market, and you were probably going to have to waive an inspection, which to me sounded absolutely insane. The only reason I didn't do an inspection on this house, but it was new construction, and I had a friend come in and who used to be in the building trade look at it. I was able to fortunately get it before it hit the market, so I didn't have to go too far over. But a lot of people were doing that. Is that still a thing right now in Minnesota?
Absolutely.
It still is, huh?
Yeah, that's more of a realtor question, if you will. But yeah, it's if you're selling a house, it's going to be gone the first weekend.
Okay, no
Yep.
kidding.
Yep.
That hasn't changed at all.
No.
Recently, I was reading about a major lawsuit. What is it, the National Association of Realtors or something like that?
Correct.
And can you describe it, or what's your point of view on it?
So it's a lawsuit brought on by the government to the National Association of Realtors, and essentially, what it's saying is that there was a bunch of sellers, okay, that maybe finally read their paperwork and took a look at how is commission structured. So currently, typically what happens is the listing agent goes under contract with someone that wants to sell their home, and they list it for X percent, somewhere usually between 5 and 7%. And then on the other side, on the multiple listing service, all right, it would state on there what the cooperating agent would get paid, meaning the buyer's agent. And so this lawsuit is if I zoom out, the only difference right now is the National Association of Realtors has agreed to, but this thing hasn't even been signed off yet, to remove the category on the actual listing that gives the percentage that the buyer's agent's going to get paid. That has to go to 0. Well, so what does that mean? It doesn't mean they're going to get paid 0. It just means the seller now has an option to decide how much they're going to pay in commission. If they go back and decide, let's say they only want to pay the listing agent 3%, a prospective buyer now has to come in and probably will have to pick up the amount that the buyer's agent gets paid, because both sides of the transaction typically get paid unless the listing agent is covering both the buyer and the seller. So essentially what's going to happen is every buyer will have to sign an agreement that states what they're going to be paying their buyer's agent for commission. It may still get paid by the seller, depending on if they want to pay it, and it may come out of their pocket if the seller doesn't want to pay it. But I don't know if it's going to really change the way the real estate market works, because both sides probably are still going to get paid. the big thing that changes is realtors are going to have to do their homework. They're going to have to work a little bit harder, and they're just going to have to disclose something that we've never disclosed before, and that is the specifics. Who's getting paid what?
Well, I remember the first house I bought in the mid-'90s, I think it was like predetermined that each one was getting 3.5%.
Yeah.
The seller and the buyer, the agents on the first house that I bought. And I believe then I bought another house, 3-4 years later, moved, upgraded, and it was about the same setup. I don't think there was any issue with it. And it just seemed like, because I remember asking them in the first house, well, how do they get paid? And they said, well, they take 1% off of this. How is that going to change now? It's just, they're just going to rearrange the deck chairs of the Titanic and just do a workaround.
I truly believe you nailed it. Somehow or another, there's going to be a workaround. I think there's a lot of agents out there that maybe were uncomfortable talking effectively about compensation, and that part's going to need to change. If they can sit their buyers down and say, hey, look, here's how the world works here. There's a really high possibility that this transaction is going to go just like every transaction has, prior to this settlement. But just in case the seller doesn't want to pay the buyer's agent, you're going to have to pay me.
Yeah. So then it's going to depend on the market. Like you said, it's a seller's market right now. So are they going to dictate more of what's going on when you have all these buyers lined up? You know what I mean?
Well, remember your comment about rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic? I don't see this as very impactful as to how daily business will take place between realtors and their clients.
So maybe the first, let's say 90 days after July, when this supposedly takes into effect, you may have some weirdness going on.
I think
people overreacting or ignorant to how to deal with it.
Yeah, the way it states today is every buyer will sign an agreement. Well, we don't even know what that agreement looks like yet.
Yeah. And then a year from now or 2 years from now, people are going to still buy homes. They're still going to sell homes. Commercial property is going to move, going to get sold.
I'm pretty sure that it's not going to impact the amount of sales that take place.
You were talking interest rates are what would you say, 7 something right now? I think when I bought my first house, it was around 6.4, 6.5. So it was, it was just, okay, this is what it is. My wife's parents bought a house in 1980. It was 18%. And luckily it dipped like the week they were going to buy it, and they got down to 15 or 16. But imagine that, 16%.
Yeah, back in the day.
And that was to squeeze the money out of the economy, right? Because they had inflation was dramatic.
Big time high inflation.
Yeah.
Incomes were different. House prices were a little bit different back then.
Sure.
And those interest rates were around long enough for them to get used to it. And I think, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, we've had a long string of low interest rates. And it's just, it's something that the consumer hasn't gotten used to yet.
Mm. Yeah. A younger consumer.
The younger consumer.
Somebody that's been around maybe and seen something prior to that. It's like, okay, well, this is where we're at. We're still going to buy a house.
Agreed.
We're still going to get financing. It's just going to cost a little more in the long run. And I guess if interest rates go down, then you can refi.
So the Fed dictates what they're going to do with interest rates. If inflation comes below 2%, their target, they'll start cutting interest rates. If the Fed cuts a quarter point, the next day, don't expect mortgage rates to be a quarter point less, but it will catch up, and the general level of interest rates will fall in accordance to how much they trim off of the federal funds rate.
Now, when you talked about the Fed dropping it a quarter, what's the lag time in your industry to see those rates?
30, 60, 90 days, and it's probably not so much the actual quarter that was cut, but it's the speak and the rumor that takes place as to, okay, are we now on a path to continue cutting interest rates? Mm-hmm. Because then the market will jump on that ahead of time, and you'll see lower interest rates before those cuts even take place.
Now, are there still ARMs out there? Do people still do that?
That's a good question. I get a call regarding ARMs every now and then, and when you price out your typical ARM put out by your Fannies and Freddies of the world, the interest rates are actually higher on an adjustable rate mortgage than a 30-year fixed rate mortgage because short-term interest rates are higher than long-term interest rates. And so ARMs are really out of favor. Are they out there? Yes, they are. Are they being utilized very much right now? No.
Okay. Because that was kind of the wave, right? Early 2000s, people were doing those.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. Well, if you're reading tea leaves in the next 60, 90 to a year out, is there anything that you're feeling or seeing, looking at stats, numbers?
Another great question. So I'm going to go back to as long as inflation remains in its sticky state.
That's a good term.
Interest rates will stay the way they are, or perhaps even higher if inflation goes higher. Now, people way smarter than me have figured that at some point in the next, say, 24 months, we're going to get in a position where the Federal Reserve will start an easing policy. They discussed as much as 6 quarter-point adjustments in 2024. Right now, there's bets that it'll be 0. So we haven't controlled this yet. There's still too many of those dollars chasing too few goods, and it's just going to take some more time.
Yeah, they really haven't put the squeeze down yet.
No.
What are they, too afraid to do it?
If you lower,
they're trying to do some, what is it, easing?
Yeah,
Is that what they call it?
So an easing policy or lowering interest rates makes money cheaper. So it makes people borrow more. It encourages borrowing. And if you encourage borrowing in an environment where inflation is still too high, inflation's going to go higher. And they don't want to go down that road because then it erodes the value of our dollars and our retirement accounts, et cetera, et cetera.
Do you do any work with other sorts of properties? It's not just real estate in the sense of houses. Are you commercial?
No, just residential real estate.
No.
New construction.
Okay. How's new construction looking in Minnesota? Because everywhere I drive around in the suburbs, there's new construction.
New construction is hot, but it's also very expensive. And you can't completely blame the builders on that because when you look at the cost of materials, supply chain issues, building permits, the cost of land. I've talked to a lot of builders and they have people that approach them saying, "Hey, can you build me something, in that 300 range?" And they can't do it. They cannot do it.
Wow.
So your new construction's out there, although they're building houses left and right. You can't build one for less than $400,000 unless you get out in the country.
So let's say in a suburb that's traditional, not an inner ring, but you maybe like your Forest Lake or your Apple Valley or something where they're still building a lot, or out towards St. Michael, Albertville. Some of these houses, what, $400,000 to $500,000. I mean, how's somebody that's 25 got to get into that house?
Probably starting in the 4s. How does someone at 25 get into that? They need a lot more income today than they used to, and a down payment.
And then I'm going to go just slightly bigger picture. How about BlackRock? You hear all this shit about BlackRock and how that company now is using housing and real estate as an investment tool, and then they're buying up properties.
About the third quarter of 2007, things really started to hit the fan, and property values went down considerably. And your BlackRocks of the world bought up a ton of real estate, and they've continued to buy a ton of real estate because rental prices have just skyrocketed. And your BlackRocks of the world, it'd sure be nice if they would offload some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little bit of chatter out there in the federal government trying to entice them to sell some of those properties by reducing the capital gains tax that they might pay. I don't know if anything like that's been inked. I don't know if it's enough to get them to sell or start offloading those things, but it would sure help.
First of all, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
I think we could sit down and talk to you for like 4 hours.
Pleasure.
And
yeah, agreed.
Maybe this is a reoccurring thing as the markets change, and talk about these items and get some people informed. Can you give a plug out?
So Equity Source Mortgage, we're located in Elk River, Minnesota. We've been at this a long time. We're a mortgage broker. And so what we're able to do is kind of shop the market and find the best interest rates out there for our consumers. FHA, VA, USDA, first-time home buyers, investment properties. We pretty much do it all and enjoy the heck out of it.
So that's kind of separating you from your traditional bank where you go in and get a mortgage.
I think the separation is in the human interaction. You can actually talk to us, and if we take on, an application from someone these days, you only deal with one person during your transaction instead of being handed off, which that's the way I prefer it, and questions get answered, anxiety levels stay low, and that's just the way we've kind of preferred to run the business.
Well, that's great. I appreciate you guys coming out, joining T Bag and Bubs on the show. Jason, Roy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was great.
Good luck with that rap.
It was great having the guys from Equity Source Mortgage in here. Great guys. Check them out at Equity Source Mortgage. And also, they're actually licensed in Florida as well, which a lot of people from Minnesota seem to be flocking to. So don't forget, licensed in Florida as well. But thanks a million again to Roy and Jason. And Bubs, let's get back to the bullshit here about talking about burning down the U.S. Capitol and things of that nature. No,
Revolution.
No, it was a great show today. My fitness, like I said, we were touching on it earlier.
Yeah, we can give this 5 minutes.
I'm hoping that it gets back into a good groove with the fitness.
Can you hand me that little thing of notes right there? I have a little thing. I was talking about keto and trying to move the body, and I'm in it right now.
It's going good?
Yeah, I have endless energy right now. I'm doing projects at home, and it's just like my wife said, why don't you take a break?
Wow.
Yeah, and
you're overworking it, huh?
yeah, it's kind of refreshing, but it's a discipline, man. Because she made a cake for you because you never told us when your birthday was. And you shared it was a while ago.
I'm going to keep that. Yeah, that's my business.
Yeah.
That's my own private information.
But guess what? She made you cake. She made you her famous crack cake.
I'm so
First
excited.
one's free, and then after that, you're an addict. But I looked, and I'm talking about keto, and I'm really doing well. And then she's got these 2 extra dark chocolate cake boxes from Betty Crocker, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the word moist is on there. Oh. So I just took those boxes upstairs, and she made the cake, and I said, save those boxes because I'm going to huff that. I'm going to touch myself, and I'm going to read the word moist out loud. And then I'm going to go downstairs, and I'm going to have a high-fat type meal.
This whole thing is sounding very erotic, in a lot of ways.
It's mouth porn, buddy.
You take your food very seriously, don't you?
Well, I took that moist cake box upstairs.
Boy, I'm really excited to try that cake. I got to be honest. Unfortunately, I've got to go down to the city after this, which is going to put me in kind of a mental tailspin.
It's going to put you in a mood.
Yeah.
It
but
does.
when I get back, you know what my mind is going to be focused on? Because I don't have to work tonight.
Good for you.
My mind is going to be focused on, besides the podcast and the guys at Equity Source Mortgage, it's going to be focused on that cake. Because
have a nice slice.
I've got a calorie deficit that I'm working on. That's going to be my evening meal, is that slice of cake.
Well, I would recommend just do the wedding plate cake, where you get the little thin. You're just like, man, I could eat more cake, but they just give you the wedding slice. Just
a small taste.
Yeah, half-inch thick.
Portion.
And then portion it out for the next 3 days.
A sensible dinner, as Tommy Lasorda would have said back in his Slim Fast days.
Sure. Yeah, a sensible dinner.
A sensible
Some cake
dinner.
followed by a beer.
Yeah, buddy. Well, great show again today. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks especially to Roy and Jason from Equity Source Mortgage out of Elk River.
There's a great depth of knowledge.
Yeah,
there.
those guys are going to definitely be back on the show, too, because they are definitely some beer-drinking sombitches, if you know what I mean.
And if anybody out in the audience, is looking to buy, sell, go to Florida, buy in Minnesota, send us a couple questions if you have anything.
We'll send it to us on X or YouTube, or if you have our personal information, send it there, too. We'll get those questions into the next show. If you have any movie suggestions, do that as well. We're always open to that. We haven't really done a full deep dive movie in a while, so maybe we should figure one out.
I get teased a lot by some friends of mine about Eyes Wide Shut. They just think I just sit and watch it all the time because I'm a pervert or something.
It's a great movie, man. I could watch Eyes Wide Shut once a month.
Really?
I think so. I could find something new in it every month, I bet. Fidelio.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up.
Let's do it. Everybody, thanks again a million times over for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bubs is out.